so in that period of time, but I woke up every day. And I woke up every day like I was working. So people would never even see. So even if you came home, you'd see me in a shirt, you'd see me in a, in formal pants, and you think, oh, you just come from work. Or So I worked. So my mind, it was me trying to keep my mind from going insane and saying, I don't have work now. And I think at some point in time, I used to live at SARS. Because then when I started realizing, oh, there's something called SARS, I needed to learn that. So because remember, I didn't know that, I think I only knew of VAT, but I didn't know there's, income tax, because I kind of understood the income statement, but I didn't know there's provisional tax. I didn't know there's, that IRP5s that you needed to submit. I didn't know any of that. So I sat with SARS, and they used to laugh at me, and they say, there's your office when you came in. In 2023, I graduated from being a property buyer to being a property investor. So then I was a property buyer. I did not run through the numbers. It was just a case of, I knew that I had money. I knew that I wanted to buy a property. You know how it goes. Property is a good investment. But nobody really tells you that property can be a very bad investment, or things can go wrong with property. So I bought it, and I kept it for a very, very long time. I think I only got rid of it recently.
This is Mogobe Nuggets of Wisdom podcast. We enthuse, we energize, we inspire, and we empower entrepreneurs and entrepreneurs of all stripes in BW and beyond. Hello, let me greet you and welcome you to another dynamic episode of Mogobe Nuggets of Wisdom podcast. I'm so super excited. We're shooting here from Sanzi. I came all the way to meet this gentleman. He's a powerhouse. I call him a piece of dynamite. That's how powerful he is. You'll find out why I'm so excited in a moment. We're going to get into it in a second, but please just strike that subscribe button. I need those subscriptions as well. I have a book, another shameless plug, Momp Nuggets of Grit. It's available at Exclusive Books. It's available directly from us at Mogobe Plaza. If you want to get hold of the book, you can call us on 397-1368. Of course, if you're outside Botswana, the code is +267. Welcome to the studio, our makeshift studio here in Johannesburg.
Yeah, thank you.
Mr. Mabuye Mokoena.
Yes. Yes, but it's always intimidating when you say powerhouse. It's like a great expectation. It's like but it's very weird when you say that because just to say that upfront, that our circumstance of how we met, and in my mind, I thought it would be the other way around. I thought I'd be the one sitting with you in Botswana later on in the month, teasing your brain about things and how life happens sometimes. It's very weird that.
And indeed, on the 1st of November, and I want this thing to drop before then, we will get together at one seminar, which I'm sharing the stage with Witness Mdaka. That's my partner who is based here. And we'll be sharing the stage at the Pond, at our restaurant there. So I'm looking forward to it.
No, so am I.
And you confirmed you're coming.
Yep, so am I. So I'm looking forward to it.
Just the introduction part, who you are, a little bit on your academics.
I think for me, a very short introduction is that I'm just a product or a child of who just punches above his weight and who constantly challenges the status quo. And what I mean by that is that I had a very normal upbringing in South Africa with my mom and my dad and my two other siblings. So we're all boys, and then I was the middle child. So you understand why I always have to punch above my weight, because you had the firstborn and then you had the lastborn. Okay, that's usually where the love stays, and then the secondborn you have to. The middle child you always have to fend for yourself. And then I went into high school, to a boarding school, Potchefstroom, and then I came back from boarding school. Then when I finished high school, so I basically changed 2 high schools. Then when I was finished with high school, I took a gap year. And there's a reason why I mentioned I took a gap year there, because that was probably my first part of where business started. And then after I took my first gap year, and then I went to Pretoria. They used to call it Pretoria Tech. Now they call it Tshwane University of Technology. And then funny enough, I studied hospitality.
Oh.
Yeah. So it was mainly influenced by my father in terms of hospitality. I wanted to go into the engineering field, but we did hospitality purely on the basis of it allowed me to go overseas. It was the easiest way of allowing me to go overseas, and that's exactly what I did.
Okay.
After studying my hospitality degree or diploma, and then I went overseas to start working.
Where was this?
In UK, in London. So I went to the farms. It's called Surrey, so it's right down in the farms. I started off there for the first couple of years, and then I moved over to London, and it was a very bad decision
When was this?
financially. So this was around about 2004.
Okay.
So that was around about from 2004 to about 2007, 8. I lived my life in the UK.
Why was it a bad decision going to London?
So moving, so what had happened was when I moved to London, the salary was much bigger, but I didn't realize that like how expensive London is. So London is very expensive. So in terms of savings, when I was in Surrey, I was getting half of what I was getting paid in London, but I could save up more. Because there's not much to do. But in London, there's everything to do, and everything is just there. That's what I'm saying. Financially, it wasn't necessarily the best
mainly
decision.
what, housing and transportation.
Transportation actually was very cheap, but the housing in London was very expensive, and the quality of life, the food, and everything else, the nightlife. I was still a young man then, so the nightlife and was very expensive at the time. So from a financial decision, it wasn't so great, but from exposure to life, it was very good.
Okay. Now, what is the current venture that we are involved in? What's the business now? or should I just say, what was your first business coming back from London?
So when I think even my first current venture business happened before I even went to London. So it kind of happened in my first gap year when I finished matric, between matric and tertiary first year. So we had a neighbor at the time, and very young man as myself, but he was a brilliant tradesman, so he was good with his hands. He was a good tiler. So he was skilled with his hands. I was skilled with the mouth. So we sought to find a good partnership of partnering together, where then I would find business, and then he would then execute the business from that point of view. And it was a mini construction business, and that's where I would say that was where my first introduction to entrepreneurship, to business was.
What were you constructing?
So we're mainly doing a lot of, not even construction, I think it was a lot of maintenance work. So we're doing a lot of tiling, a lot of renovation work. That's what I was doing. And it's funny that full circle to now, today, only now I'm thinking about it, that's actually part of what I'm doing.
Okay.
In a different way.
But in a different way that you're doing it for your own company.
I think even then it was our little company, so but it wasn't registered formally, Like I said, I had the gift of the gab, as they say. So I talk too much. So I always managed to get to the because we then lived in a suburb, managed to go to the white folks and say, look, this is who we are, this is what we do. And then I remember our first job was almost our back opposite neighbor where we used to live, and he was renovating his bathroom. And then we came in there, and he had bought everything else, and we came and renovated his bathroom from there. I did not have any skills of that, but I was very good at talking. So I managed to convince him to use us, and like I said, my partner was very good at that.
But so you could back yourself up. It wasn't just talk. You had good tradesmen.
Yeah, no, he was very good. So,
but the decision to focus on construction, or what triggered that interest?
At the time, I'm not sure. I think at the time, as a young man taking a gap year, because my father is a businessman, so I think I grew up around the business space. Even though I was not involved in the family business, but just being around that space influenced me to know that, I want to go into business someday.
Yeah.
So I think that's when the opportunity came in, and I saw him doing that work, and I thought, hey, maybe we could do something and make a little bit of money.
Yeah.
And then we did at the time, and unfortunately, the partnership had to end because I had to go back to school.
Again?
So I had to go
this
back
time
to school.
To do what?
To study my hospitality, to study to go back to hotels, because that was a gap year. So after I finished matric, in that year, we made money, and then after that, I left for.
That's when
Pretoria.
you went away for 2 years to
Yes,
Surrey.
Okay. No, that was to Pretoria. So that was first to Pretoria. Yeah, to study my hospitality diploma. Yeah.
All right. Let's talk about property, your first venture and how you dabbled into it.
Oh, I think so. There's two stories to this, and I only remembered now when I was thinking back. So my first real property that I bought, I remember I was introduced by a gentleman called Paisley Monkwe from the Val, because that's where I'm from the Val Triangle. And I think I just came back from the UK. Yes, I just come back from the UK. And he was already established in the property industry. As to how we met, I cannot remember how he got into contact with my mother, and my mother said, you know what, my child is interested in properties, and we were talking about 2008, and my child is interested in properties. I said, no, give me the number. We got in contact, and then we had an opportunity to actually buy a building. I cannot remember how many blocks it was, and it was in Sasolburg.
Wow.
And then I remember my father actually funded our portion. So it was myself and Paisley were one, and then there were two other gentlemen who were also a group of that. And then what happened with that deal is that we were able to raise our part of the money. So with my father financing me, but you must understand, my father was very strict. Still is very strict with money. He will make you sign that, my child, you owe me this much money.
And you'll pay it back.
And you will pay back. How you going to pay back, when you're going to pay back. Till today, he still does it with everybody. So he funded me the first portion. So Paisley came up with his portion. I think, if I'm not mistaken, it was around close to R1 million in 2007.
That is a lot.
That's a lot of money. So that was our portion. Unfortunately, the other partners didn't inform us that they were not in that financial situation. So they brought in a third person to come into the deal. And then, likely because my father is an astute businessman, he took us to his lawyers and, to kind of look at the deal and how it was structured. And at that time,
and to drop the paperwork.
But the moment the lawyer, my dad's lawyer, knew who the other partner was, because it was also an attorney, all he said was that if I were you guys, I would calculate how much interest is sitting in this deal that you're going to have to win and pull out. And that's all he said, because he said, I know who that other attorney is. It's not going to end well for you guys. He swallows up people. And it's not going to come out the best for you. And that time I was that was my first exposure to property.
What was that lawyer notorious for?
Because he's a lawyer, because, he knows the
but
terms.
He must have been a vicious lawyer.
He was. I mean, in town of Vereeniging.
Speaking as a lawyer myself.
Yes.
I know those kinds
and
of lawyers.
I'm trying to choose my words
carefully
here, because I am aware that you're a lawyer, but he was very shrewd. He was a very shrewd man. And when likely, my dad had the presence of mind to say, guys, go see my lawyer before you do anything here. And the moment that name popped up, the lawyer said, can I give you a piece of advice? Whatever. And likely because we had invested the money, our portion, and we came out with a nice little interest, because it took a bit of time before it happened. And he said, pull out. So we pulled out of that deal, made a little bit of money. I gave my father back his money. I think at the time I made a 20,000 or 30,000 in profit for myself. And then with that, because I still had some reserves from
But it would otherwise have been a great deal, right? In terms of yield, in terms of, we look at things like capitalization rate and all those metrics.
But remember, back then, I was still excited.
Even know,
I didn't even know that existed. And I was just excited that I'm buying a block of flats.
Yeah.
And that's all that was important. I'm buying a block of flats in Sasolburg. But apparently, as hindsight, apparently didn't end well for the other guys, the deal itself. But that was my first.
They wound up in court or something.
Yeah. Something like that, but it didn't end well. That's as far as I remember with that. But then after that, I still had money saved up from the UK, and that's when I bought my first sort of investment property. But even then, I just bought it on the.
Are you able to take us through the numbers? How good was it?
No, it wasn't that great.
Tell us.
Oh, it wasn't that great. So what I'll tell you is that, the difference between then and now is that I always tell people that in 2023, I graduated from being a property buyer to being a property investor. So then I was a property buyer. I did not run through the numbers. It was just a case of, I knew that I had money. I knew that I wanted to buy a property. You know how it goes. Property is a good investment. But nobody really tells you that property can be a very bad investment, or things can go wrong with property. So I bought it and I kept it for a very, very long time. I think I only got rid of it recently. Last year, actually, 2023. When I graduated to being a
from
property
being
investor. When I
Okay.
started doing the numbers, I went, this is not worth keeping.
Maybe there's a chance to share with the viewers what's the difference between a buyer and an investor.
So, so in most cases, we think that we are property investors, but we are actually property buyers. So the difference is very simple. A property investor looks at a property, and there's a lot of things, like you said, the matrix that you look at. So first of all, you look at the numbers. You know, you look at the location, yes, but then you start running the numbers. So now I'm exposed to things like Lightstone in South Africa that gives you the area of, is this area from a rent point of view, what should you be collecting as rent? How does it look going forward? What was the history of that place? You know, is the property going to go up? Whereas a property buyer just says, I've got affordability, I can buy. So therefore, I'm just going to buy because property is a good investment. Whereas I'm an investor now, I look at the yield. What's the yield? What's my return on investment? What is my exit strategy, which is one of the biggest things I learned when I joined the property community. And so when you start comparing the two, you know, you can't really, they're incomparable because a property investor looks at that and makes a decision based on facts and not on emotion. And that's the other difference between a property buyer and a property investor. Facts versus emotion. So we buy with a lot of emotion. An investor says, I can't invest any emotion in this. The numbers must
So
speak
using
for
that
themselves.
first property as an example, what went wrong? Where were the red flags, if any?
So the red flags would have been the type of tenants that I had. So again, I didn't vet the tenants. I was desperate to get somebody in there. First person that comes up, can they come up with a deposit? That's all that I cared about. And then you go through that, and months down the line, they stop paying. Now you end up having to use other ways and not the legal way of having to kick them out. Now you get called to court that you cannot kick people out because, again, the property investor understands the law behind, I can't just evict people in South Africa. There's a certain process, and it's a very lengthy process. So one, I did not safeguard myself against all those things. And now, again, I've got to deal with that.
Yeah. I keep going to those rabbit holes as you're talking, but I'm just curious because I'm from Botswana. What is the eviction process or procedure here in South Africa? What does it take to get rid of an unwanted tenant?
First of all, it takes a lot of money because you're going to go to court. So it's not just a simple case of the sheriff and it's that case. No, you first have to get through the process of the letter of demand. And then from the letter of demand, if they're still not responding, then you have to put in an application to court. And then from the application to court, it can take as long as 6 months. And there still after that, you've got to go fight it out. And you know your industry. The lawyers are not the most, they're not
pleasant
the cheapest,
people,
and they're not the cheapest. So remember, you are accumulating all those costs. So then after you go through that process, only then the court gives you the paper that says, yes, the person can be evicted. Then they give it to the sheriff because you can't do it yourself. And then the sheriff is the one that can go and do that process there. So, and in some instances, it takes years.
Oh,
To do that. And the problem with that is that in the meantime, you are the one who's taking the knock because it's your property. They're damaging the property while they stay in there because they don't care because they know that you're after evicting them. So they damage their property. Levies are accumulating every single month. And all these other operational expenses are keep increasing every single month. And you are not getting anything in return for that. And it's not risk averse. So you are full on risk. And that's where it is. Whereas now as an investor, there are certain measures that you put into place to say, should this happen? Yes, exactly. So and that's where the difference is.
Okay, time to share some of your triumphs and successes. It'd be nice to know what you've accomplished as a company.
From that point of view, or the country, company
just now, the current setup.
So maybe let me give you a bit of a background of what the current setup
is.
You know, before we talk about this. So long, you know, after going into hospitality, which is what primarily I studied for, that changed, and I went into finance in terms of becoming a certified financial advisor.
Oh.
Yeah. So but that in itself is a process of going to school. And that's when I really got introduced to the other side of life, which is the number side, of everything that happens
So
there.
you enrolled as a CF to become a CFP.
FP,
Where?
yeah, in Liberty. So I started in Liberty, and then from Liberty we went to University of Free State at the time. It was the only one that was offering it then. You know, the qualification itself, that you go through that process there, then you become a qualified CFP, and you know, and then from there on, I dabbled into a space that I think at the time it became very frustrating for me because
Did you then start your own business for
I wish
rendering
I did.
financial?
I wish I did.
Okay.
I wish I did. I was working under an agency
Okay.
for Liberty. Like I said, at that time, the exposure to business and I think maybe the yearning was not there. And it's one of those things that regrets that I say, you know, I wish I'd stuck around long enough and had done it. So from there on, I went into corporate South Africa and worked for a couple of big multinationals in the space of facilities management. And that gave birth to what my business is now. So in 2017, I packed my bags after I got a letter that says, you know what, we're not renewing contracts. And so therefore, but you know, thinking back, intuition, I kind of knew that was coming.
And it was, excuse me, it was a blessing, was it?
I knew, it's almost like I knew it was coming in the beginning of the year. Somehow said, so I started setting up, I think the year before, in 2016, I'd already started setting up this company, you know, using pseudonyms and different names and, you know, not using my real name, using my sort of like a...
You were already getting ready for your exit.
It's almost like I knew that it was going to happen. At the time, you know, there were no indications, but something was telling me that it's going to happen. And lo and behold, in July of 2017, boom, it happened. And I think at that time, I made a decision that part of me knew that I always wanted to run my own business. But I was also naive enough to not think that it's going to be that hard. And 2017, I started my entrepreneurial journey formally. Gave birth to a business, and then within the facilities management space.
What's the name of the company?
It's called Dimolox Facilities. Dimolox, Dimolox.
Okay.
Facilities company. But it started off as a cleaning company because that was the space that I was very, very familiar with. But the lessons that I learned from there, maybe it's one of them, that the first lesson is that before you start, you know, there's certain checks and balances that you need to make sure that you tick off. But I think the biggest one being you have the emotional maturity to handle that, because
You need emotional intelligence.
not just emotion. I think you need emotional toughness, because I think at that stage in my life, I went for 2 years without a salary. So now I had to depend on my wife at the time, and growing up in, you know, as black men in South Africa, that is not how we are taught to be. How do you depend on your woman? How do you ask your wife for money? You know, you are the man. You are the one who's supposed to be the breadwinner, the provider. You know, and that is drummed into us. So now I'm now stuck in that scenario of, Hish, Tusa, please. And then I went through that process for almost 2 years, where I didn't have a salary, but I was building. And I think that speaks to resilience, but it also speaks to the mind. It speaks to the mindset. So it speaks to when I was building in that period of time when I didn't have and literally nothing. I woke up every day, put on a shirt, put on pants, went into the back room, worked, filled out tender documents. And I think at the time, you know, when you're starting off a business, so one thing I realized about starting a business is that you might be a good operator, knowing what you do. For example, you as an attorney, you know what you have to do but nobody tells you about administration. No one tells you there's a thing called administration. There's a thing called tax. There's a thing
sales,
called
administration,
and
you
all
have to
that.
Be a receptionist. You have to be all those things.
Yeah, and you don't see that because at the time I was a very good operations manager. I could run that, and I was basing my ability to run a business on that.
So in those 2 years when you're operating from home, you were starting the business now.
Yeah.
But you're still in the process of self-discovery?
Oh, definitely. Oh, no, definitely. And I think that process never ends anyway.
Yeah.
That process never ends. So in that period of time, but I woke up every day and I woke up every day like I was working. So people would never even see. So even if you came home, you'd see me in a shirt, you'd see me in a, in formal pants, and you think, oh, you just come from work. Or
Yeah.
so I worked. So my mind, it was me trying to keep my mind from going insane and saying, I don't have work now. And I think at some point in time, I used to live at SARS because then when I started realizing, oh, there's something called SARS, I needed
What
to
were you
learn
doing
that.
there?
So because remember, I didn't know that, I think I only knew of VAT, but I didn't know there's income tax because I kind of understood the income statement, but I didn't know there's provisional tax. I didn't know there's that IRP5s that you needed to submit. I didn't know any of that. So I sat with SARS and they used to laugh at me and they say, there's your office when you came in. But that was such an invaluable lesson because
So they were quite prepared to share with you and to educate you.
Exactly. And at the time, it was when they still allowed people to just walk in.
Yeah.
So I forged a friendship with them, and they helped me so much. Oh no, this is how you start a pay as you earn. This is how you start this process. This is how you start this process. This is how you get online. So and it was quite funny because I spent a lot of time, but that started teaching me the administrative part of the business. So when I eventually when the business grew, you could not tell me about tax because I can tell you exactly where to get it, how it's supposed to go.
Yeah.
And that was where the pivotal part of my life, came
which
in.
is why I want to push you to the actual business. How does it look like? What entity do you have and what does it do?
So now, so it started off as a cleaning company. Did very, very well. And then came COVID. It was the best time because I was in the right business at the right time. So we were literally printing money. Post-COVID became the worst business because people started working from home. Buildings started closing up. And now I needed to figure out how do we re-engineer this business now. So I spent a whole year literally printing money. Because it was the right business. Everyone wanted their places fumigated. Everyone wanted, all these...
Hopefully you'd
all
save
these things.
some of that money.
No, definitely. No, that's one thing. I think that's one lesson I learned from my father. He was financially astute, and I'm quite financially astute as well. So that's one thing I pride myself
If you're watching Mokoena, you did a good job.
Yeah. So then post-COVID, things going bad. So now I needed to realize how then do we redefine the business? How do we re-engineer the business? Then we started looking at other components that could complement already this business of cleaning hygiene. And that is when we became a fully fledged sort of a facilities management company now. So offering services like maintenance work, and any other work that is complementary to the business. So now we looked at a building like this and said, look, Mr. Client, Mr. Mogobe, Mr. Mogobe, give me your building.
Yeah.
And I can look after it for a fee. So you don't have to worry about cleaning, maintenance, hygiene, whatever else goes wrong. That is my business. And then you just pay me a fee for it and I look after your business.
How does it work? Is it a percentage of rent? How do you get paid?
Because there's different facets of it there. So some of them, it depends how you negotiate it. Some of them is negotiated on percentage of rent. Some of them is dependent on the services that you offer there. So if you bundle up the services, whereas to say that if I'm cleaning X amount of square meters, then this is how much it's going to cost. So they've got the other component, where you have to buy the actual products, the hygiene services. So all those things there. So you combine that, and that is where the uniqueness of it comes in, that you bundle up a service and you show the client a savings. And that is, I think, where we used to fight with my previous employers, because they used to have a model of saying, we have a facilities, but all the different departments still run as silos. So the cleaning department still wanted to say, but I want to keep my margins. So did the hygiene and facility. So they were never really in sync, in as much as that's
but
what
when
they
you
sell.
set up your own, you made sure that
That is what I was trying to put. Yeah, because, and it's also nice when you're in emerging
So even
business.
at the beginning, when you get into contact with the customer, you demonstrate to them the saving.
So you demonstrate to them and say, look, if we are coming in at cleaning alone, this is what it would cost you. But if you add in hygiene, we can have a discussion about where we come in. But if you add in the facility side of it, then let's now look at packaging. So because you're an emerging business, you can still allow yourself to cut down on certain margins. But because when you're a big business and each manager has their own targets to meet, then it becomes very, very difficult. And so we did that part of the business there. But what happened was, coincidentally, when facilities grew, then, because now I'm married to a civil engineer as well.
Your wife is a
Is a civil engineer.
Wow.
So
You married well.
you must marry smart, guys. And if that's the advice I can give people, you must
Yeah.
marry smart.
Yeah.
It helps.
Yeah, it does. It does.
Marry smarter than you.
Yeah, I'm
It's
married to
certain.
an entrepreneur, so
Yeah.
I call her my chairman, my
Yeah.
chairwoman. I mean, she advises me.
Exactly,
She's
because
the
there's a
chairman
lot
of the board, the chairwoman of the board.
100%. And so when that happened, then other businesses started mushrooming from there. So as I said, the facilities mushroomed from there. Then when the facilities came in, that's when I started becoming a property professional now. So in giving you that long story is to say that now the company looks different. So now we have a group of companies. So we call it Mokoena Africa Holdings.
Wow.
So I'm Mokoena Africa. So Mukoski Mokoena. So
Yeah.
everything of mine
Yeah.
is Mokoena Africa.
Yes.
So we've got Mokoena Africa Holdings, which then became the holdings company. Then you've got the other businesses. So you then under Mokoena Africa, you've got two sides. You've got, the shared side, the trust, and then you've got the property side. So then under the shared trust, it's all the normal businesses. Diamond falls in under there. We've got other companies that do construction, because now my wife, the construction business started coming in. And because it's by its own very nature of how it is, it just sinks into there.
Yes.
Then the property side of it. So I kept them separate. So then you've got Mokoena Africa Properties, which is the holdings company. And then under that,
Headquartered here in
South
Joburg.
Africa. Yeah, in Joburg. So then under that, then you've got, so under like the property group, you've got a few more other so you've got Mokoena Africa Property Management. So that's the leasing
have you
company.
centralized it in the sense that they're all operating from one office, or how does it work?
So they all operate. So they're all operating from one office. But currently, what is happening now? We're expanding. We're just busy finalizing the zoning rights to where the company is to get commercial rights, zoning rights, so that I can extend the building, and we've got a nice little plan where I can split them up and say the property division is this side, and the business is this side, and then I sit at the top there, where you can have a look at everything else.
That's
It gave birth to all that business there. So under the property side, we started growing. We've got a leasing company now that manages our properties. Then we've got a company that buys multi-lets. And then we've got one that, shouldn't be saying this, that's probably in the middle of buying probably a B&B. And so all the different
how
property
does the portfolio
strategy
look like in terms of size and quality? By that I mean commercial, industrial, retail.
So most of the, it's still in my books, and I don't want to say compared to yours, because I know a thing or two that the viewers might not know about yours.
Might not know.
Yes, but I mean it's building up. The biggest portion of our industry is of the property portfolio is the multi-lets. So I think at the moment we're trading at about probably be closer to 30 units of multi-lets.
Wow.
And then I've got a commercial office that houses 1, 2, 3, 4 businesses, 4 companies. But what's beautiful about how I've managed to kind of set this entire thing up is that when money comes into the business, I think it floats about 4, 5, 6 times before it can leave.
That's smart.
Because and I think I understood that model, and I like that model. So for example, if we've got a tenant, if a tenant pays rent, that's fine. It comes into Mokoena Leasing, Mokoena Africa Properties. But if something is wrong and the tenant, we need to fix something, then the facilities guys, maintenance guys will come in and fix that side of the business there. Then this other one will pay this one. Ultimately, we still, Mokoena still benefits out of all that before it actually goes to the bank.
Yeah.
So that is actually how it's actually structured at the moment. And going forward, that is how we're building up this leg of
and in terms of the biggest learnings from your previous business, what is it that you would be prepared to share with the viewer, as this was like a biggest aha moment in terms of learning how to set things up?
I think it's an understanding that knowledge is potential power. I think that is the biggest lesson that I learned, that without information, you're nothing. And information is power. And for me, information is currency. Without that information there, you would be nothing. And the reason why I've seen that in my own life is in the property industry literally, as I said, when I started getting informed from 2023, it catapulted that the property portfolio
Completely.
completely.
And how
10,
do you
20,
acquire
30,
that information? Is it a deliberate series of steps, or how do you go about it?
It was. So what's happening? So I'm a very curious person, and I'm very curious, and I'm able to somehow, maybe it's intuition. I'm able to trust my intuition. So when things were not going well, so at the time when I had the properties, for example, I knew that something's not right, man. I have these properties, but I'm not. Something's just not happening here. I don't see the returns of what I think at the time eight properties should be doing. So what am I doing wrong? Then I got curious, and one day, started googling around, and I saw, for example, the South African Property Investors Network, and they had a workshop in that week, and then I went in and I paid for it, and then in that workshop, I was just saying to the guys of A, I came in there arrogant and saying, I own 8 properties, and you walk in there, I want to see what these guys can tell me, and then you got amazed at what other people out there are doing, and suddenly you shrink, and your level of confidence shrinks, and you realize, I didn't know what I didn't know.
Yeah.
And that's where the basic
and you can
lessons
learn a
come.
lot from others.
Yeah,
So
and
how-
that's where it helped me. So that information,
So what does it take to become a member? Something like that.
nothing. It really takes. They've got certain tiers, but they start from very, very low. I just don't know the amounts of top of my
Yeah.
head. But again, it depends how serious you are. So for me, because I knew something was wrong and I knew I needed to do this, I went and took the top tier package that involves coaching and. So I went and it was quite. If I look at it now, if you ask me now, that has repaid itself over and
So
over.
what would you
again.
say is a direct correlation between the coaching and the outcomes you are having now?
Man, with let's just put it this way: without it, I don't think I'd be anywhere near where I am, and with the knowledge that I have and that I carry with me, to be able to make smarter decisions in that. So the correlation between my growth and my being nominated for Investor of the Year is directly correlated.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah.
This was last year, right?
No, this year. It was
This year.
a couple of weeks ago.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. But didn't take it. I was a runner-up. But be that as it may,
That's
would
close
not have.
enough.
It's open doors because it's through that, to be honest, that I'm sitting here.
Yeah, that's
True,
yeah.
So, but I can honestly say that I owe that to that part of the coaching business, joining a professional team of people who have done what I want to do, to say that I owe that to that. So
What does it take to participate and become runner-up for Coach of the Year?
For
Not
Investor of the Year.
Investor of the Year, I meant to say.
I think what happens with that is that it's just a process of you come in, you pitch a deal, and because they've got so many subcategories, they've got categories of big leagues, and now big leagues, that's probably where you would fit in. And then they've got beginners, all the way from beginners, intermediary, big leagues, most innovative. So you basically go in and pitch a deal, and when you pitch a deal, then the first stage is that they would then decide where does this really fit in, because you don't really know which categories it may fit in. So once you go through that, you go through a vigorous process where they're now having to vet the numbers. Is what you're saying real?
You open your accounts.
Yeah. Is
To
what
them.
you're saying real?
Yeah.
I had to send bank statements, where the highlights, is this tenanted? Yes. Is this... So all that process, is the title deed belonging to you? As all those things that you said, that you're doing. And I think one of the biggest things that people didn't realize where we were marked on was the structure. Is the structure in the correct
Solid
way?
enough.
Oh no, have you structured it in the correct way? So i.e. what I mean by that is that what added more points, I think, because you're not really privy to how they, but one of the things that they wanted us to present on, where's the structure. So luckily, as I said to you, when I joined the South African Property Investors Network, I was very deliberate, in terms of wanting to learn. Hence I went for that, the higher package that people would have thought you're insane to spend that amount of money. But it came with a lot of benefits. It came with me sitting with an attorney who said, let's look at your current structure. Yes, you do have properties, but are they structured properly? How many are in the company? What is the liability? What is the risk? What is the tax component? Where are you at the biggest risk? So we did all that, and we had to set it up properly. So those are some of the things that are invaluable, that I say that money that I paid for that,
it pales into insignificance.
Exactly. So then that is where they look at some of those things there. And then after going through a process, you end up being one of 18 in the country that has been a finalist.
Ish. Takes a lot.
Through the... Oh, no, it does take a long
very,
time.
very impressive.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that I would put as one of your biggest successes or triumphs. Are there any others?
Yeah, I think then, because I always have to double back between the property and then the normal business. And I think the other one has to do, let's put it as conventional business.
Yeah.
So your Diamolox falls in as conventional business, because I can never forget Diamolox, because that's what gave birth to everything else.
Yeah.
So with Diamolox, I think one of the biggest things that the wins that I can probably say we are currently in it now is we sat down with the team, but the team meaning the chairman, my wife, and I said, look, I'm not happy about our business, because I also understand the life of a business. You started from startup to growth to maturity, and I felt that we hit maturity a little bit too quickly. Then from maturity, we needed to decide.
That's when you seem to reach that...
yes, the ceiling.
I call it ceiling of complexity.
Exactly. Where there's one of two things. Either you are dying slowly, or you have to push above the ceiling.
Yeah.
So I think we got there quickly as a business. And then, to also have the presence of mind to know that I think we're there now. What do we do? It's either a sink or swim situation. And little did I realize that, again, that naivety that you go into business with it. Okay, we're choosing to swim. But little did I know what it takes to swim against and it's swimming against the current. Honestly.
Yeah.
And that's where, for me, the biggest win, to have recognized that. To now start putting measures into place. When you start off as a small business and you're doing, now suddenly there's things like KPIs. Now I've got to bring in external people to say, but where are the KPIs, to do an assessment of my business. And there's nothing worse than, as a parent, being told that, you're not raising your child in the best of ways. And I don't think any parent loves to do that, because in your mind...
So you brought an external expert?
No, definitely. I had
specifically to come and...
audit the business. Because my thing was, guys, all I knew was that I set up 5 strategic objectives for this business. And again, it was very simplistic. I said, right, I need to professionalize this business. And people did not understand. What do you mean professional? You're running a business. But I said, guys, I knew what it was. I said I needed to professionalize the business. I needed to build client continuity. I needed to build...
So who did you pick? Did you pick one of these top-tier accountants?
No,
the PwCs of this
world? No, you can't afford that.
Yeah.
You can't afford that. So I went into did a lot of my research, and we eventually found a company called Supply and Chain. Small business as well, but very well versed into a lot of, how a business should operate. So they came in and did the framework. So what they're good at is designing the framework of that business. So we started with that for the last almost over a year, actually. Putting in the framework together. Then after the framework, we started now putting, almost diving deep. Because how I always call it is that what Supply and Chain did was 10 wide, 1 deep.
Yeah.
It's like an MBA, 10 wide, 1 deep.
Yes.
And then we are bringing in the specialists. So for example, now I've got a specialist who specializes in HR. She's building me an HR department. Then at the same time, I've got a marketing lady. She's building a fully fledged marketing department. So that when the time comes, when you've got when you've got senior people, they already have job specs. They already know where the business is going. So that is where the groundwork is. And to do that, guys, is a mammoth task. It is and it's painful.
I understand.
And it's painful in a sense that it touched on culture now. So suddenly, the culture in the business had to change. Because remember, at first there was a lot of family members that were working with us, and now you have to treat them with kid gloves. Now suddenly, when you have to, preparing for scaling your business, suddenly it changes.
The dynamic change.
It changes completely. How we used to converse suddenly changes. How we used to talk about the business.
Because KPIs are more important.
Yeah. Now it stops. And then I also got a business coach. And the business coach always says, it takes away the emotions. You know,
Wow.
you are dealing with the person and it takes away
Yeah,
the emotions.
yeah.
So, but now you can imagine what that does to the culture of the business. Now, suddenly I had to sit down with the team and say, where are our values? What are our values of this business? But I was also fortunate enough to say that the guys who are working under myself, the team, they were the ones who formulated.
Yeah.
And many of us never get that opportunity
No.
to do that. We work for corporate, you find
Yeah.
it there, you don't really understand where it comes from.
Yeah.
So, but I don't think they see it. But I said, you guys are sitting in a very fortunate position, but also a very unfortunate position because you are the guys who formulated these values of this business.
Yeah.
So I'm going to hold you to that.
Wow.
You
Yeah,
know?
because there has to be a buy-in from the beginning.
Yeah.
When the expert comes in.
Yeah, exactly. So that's what we had to do. So now suddenly, business has changed, and that is for me that was one of the biggest.
Wow.
And I'm still going through it because it's not done yet.
That's a very powerful thing, and I'm learning from that.
Yeah,
myself.
and like I said,
one of the things I want us to converse about is mindset and the importance of mindset. Can you describe your mindset before and how it changed, and what's your current mindset now in terms of the mindset you need to succeed?
I think one of the things that in talking about mindset, one of the things that's so important for me is that if you're looking at my bio, the one that I still haven't put out there, but my bio, one of them is that I'm a mindset student. And I don't know if you'll remember from the Real Summit, I actually asked you, and I think we never had a time to chat. I asked you, what type of mindset do you need to have to run the size of a guys, don't worry, we'll expose the size of the portfolio later on. But I asked that question because for me, that curiosity I honestly believe that it's a game changer. The mindset, remember I said to you, when things were bad, when I started the business, that 2-year period, I had the mindset of, I'm a business person. That's why I woke up every day, without fail. And so therefore the mindset is the difference maker to a lot of people. Having the mindset that is also backed by knowledge, backed by information, is a game changer. So to give you an example, one of my goals in the next 8 years has to do with mindset, because I set a very audacious goal for myself for the next 8 years. But in order for me to achieve that mindset, I need to be that person now. I just a couple of weeks ago when I did a podcast on witnesses, a podcast.
Yeah, I still have to watch that.
Yeah,
I saw it dropped about a week ago.
Yes, this week actually.
Oh, this week, okay.
Yeah, it was this.
Yeah,
last
week ago, yeah.
Yeah. So one of the things I said to him is that he even called me chairman now. I said, that sits well with me. I actually like it.
Yeah.
Because it's one
He's
of my...
referring to Witness Mdaka.
Yes. So one of the things that I had to learn, what I said is that I want to be a chairman for the group now, wherever I'm no longer taking up an executive role. And in order for me to be that, I need to be that today. My mindset is not, I'm going to be when I get there. The mindset starts now. I have to change my mind now to be that which I want to be. And so therefore, for normal people, we even touched on for guys who are out there who are saying they're trying to do business, I always want to know, where are you at? Because I'm trying to understand the mindset. Because it's easy to say, I want to be in business. But your mindset is not saying the same thing, because your mindset will dictate your behavior. Your mindset will dictate your behavior. It starts up here. It starts with the thinking. The thinking will, the mindset will inform
the behavior.
The behavior will inform the habits that you have. And the habits ultimately become your character.
Absolutely, yes.
So that to me is something that is very, very important. So sometimes when you talk about mindset, I don't have to ask you about it. I just have to look at you. I just have to follow your character, because your character tells a lot about where your mind is. So sometimes you look at, just this morning there's a young man who is a chemical engineer, and he sent me a message and please mentor me very, very early in the morning, because I wanted to start something with him.
I get a lot of those messages.
Please mentor me. But the unfortunate part about him is that I know his character and I know his life. And I didn't answer him, but by the time he probably listens to this, I would have answered him. But my answer to him was going to be very simple. But go look at your life. Because I know what it looks like. I see your character. So that tells me you are
I
probably...
see your priorities
I see your priorities right now. I see what you think you want and where it is that you're going. And those two, unfortunately, are not going in sync. One
So
is
I
going the
cannot
opposite.
waste my time.
I cannot do that. And that is what a lot of people do. Right? They want to run away.
So when
to
you say that,
mentor.
I'm led to ask you, what would you say are the key attributes and consistent habits that you have adopted that has helped you to catapult you to this level?
I think one of them is being a curious student. That's the first thing. I'm constantly curious about life. I'm constantly curious about a lot of things that I do. The second one and the third one is the currency. So the currency that I operate in is discipline and consistency.
Wow, DNC.
DNC,
My favorite.
That's the ultimate currency to get that I strive to operate in every single day. So those are some of the things that I
But what specific habits, doings, actions
that I do? One of them, the simplest one is reading. The simplest one is reading. I think that is the simplest one. That reading, listen to podcasts of different people. That's education.
like this one?
100%, because it's education. It's different point of views, different perspectives. You're looking at things like that. Seminars, I still do that. And I think on Witness Podcast, my wife reminded me that even those dark times, I still said, hey man, I need to borrow money. I want to go to seminars. And then it didn't look like they were doing anything. Till today, I still make sure that...
Well, you attending mine on the 1st of
Exactly.
November.
And I'm flying, and I'm not being obligated, but I'm flying all the way to Botswana for that. But there's something that it's doing, and there's something that I'm building behind it, and it's very deliberate. So reading is one of them. The other one is probably spending a lot of sort of alone time. Is a habit for me because I get to think. So my wife, people think I'm weird. So now and then in South Africa, I'll get in my car. Usually I do it on Sundays. I'll get in my car and I'll drive probably 120 kilometers outside the city on a highway, driving at 80 kilometers because I get to think. And it's something that I've become a habit.
And would you be listening to a podcast or to a CD or something on the way?
Yes, I would.
The motivational
stuff. But yeah, and very lowly, but thinking while I'm driving.
Yeah.
It's a habit for me, but it's a habit that helps me, put a lot of things into perspective. I think over the last couple of months, because I got injured in 2021 and 2022 to 2023. So I tore my Achilles tendon. I was boxing.
Oh.
So
I didn't imagine you as a boxer.
Even
now that you talk about it, there's a bit for
So you must understand, throughout my life I played rugby. So rugby is almost like a lot of adrenaline. So when you move from rugby, you've got to find another adrenaline, which was boxing. And I was actually preparing for a fight. And then I snapped my Achilles tendon. And then it came with a whole lot of complications for about a year and a half.
I always believe in serendipity. That may have saved you from a blow to the head, which could have caused more damage.
Maybe, and that's why I say maybe. And then from there on, funny enough, as I was getting healed, I was in Cape Town, I was playing soccer with the boys, I snapped the other one. So for a good almost 3 years, I snapped the other leg. So for a good almost 3 years, 2 to 3 years.
I hope you quit boxing after that.
No, never. Not now. I haven't gone back yet. So I'm still in the healing process. But definitely the moment I get the green light.
Are you talking about boxing competitively? Or
white collar. But white collar is still competitive.
White collar boxing?
Yeah, it's still competitive.
What is that?
So it's not professional. So for lack of a better word, they call it white collar boxing. So it's not professional.
Where do you box and how often?
But so then when I was boxing every day.
Oh, okay.
I was boxing every single day.
Okay, anyway.
But no, when I got back, now one of the habits now that I've gotten into is the habit of exercising. So habit of exercising now is one that I'm keeping. But those are some of the key ones that I've had. But it's in and around my mind, feeding my mind with
I'm from Botswana, and I'm going to ask you what message you have for us out there, and what interactions have you had? Mokoena sounds like you're a Botswana yourself, so you sound like a countryman. I mean, the only thing that's between us is this silly borders really. But having said that, you have something for my home.
I think the one thing that I do know, Kabotswana, is that on my way to Zambia, because I do business in Zambia, and that's one thing I actually forgot to mention. I do business in Zambia now.
What business?
Same, I'm taking facilities into Zambia.
Oh.
So one of my strategic objectives for Dimolox was strategic objective number 3 was to be the preferred facilities maintenance company in SADC.
Mm-hmm.
So I've already started in South Africa, I've already started in Zambia.
Wow.
Botswana is next. So in answering that question, would I be doing business in Botswana?
Mm-hmm.
There has been communication that I've had with certain people in Botswana. Like I won't mention their names now.
So you are in Lusaka. What shape is the business taking there?
I think Zambia is a lot of us are flocking there. A lot of South Africans are flocking there. And I think because they also understand the landscape of the business that they need to do that. So they're very accommodating. So if I look at the red tape that I encounter in South Africa versus Zambia, you can't even compare. You know,
so they're actively encouraging foreign investment.
Very, very, very.
And the FDI is picking up there.
It is. Definitely, it is picking up. And that's what I'm saying, that, and they're allowing it. They're making it easy for us. Whereas here, I must be honest, it's the complete opposite.
Yeah.
You know, it is the complete opposite. I mean, I remember the process of, I didn't even have to be in Zambia, the process of starting the business, registering the business.
Forming the company, etc.
Forming the company, yeah. The
Even
formal structures, the
the
administration part of it there, it was seamless.
Okay.
Whereas here, the red tape, and being a foreigner at that too, you know, they've made it very easy
My
for
preliminary finding was that property is a bit expensive because everything is in US dollar there.
True, true. But I mean, if you do, likely I've got a Zambian partner, so it makes the going around easier when you've got a local on your behalf, because certain things you can still pick up can still be negotiated in Kwacha.
Yeah.
And that's, at least that's where South Africa is still a bit stronger. Than Kwacha than it is, with the Pula.
So how soon are you going to establish something in Botswana?
Look, that's what I'm looking forward to, going on the first. Spending a bit of time there, seeing the terrain, setting up meetings with, as I said, because it's always been telephonic.
Yeah.
So setting up meetings with those gentlemen that I've been speaking to and just having a look at it. And I can never give a timeline onto that, but it depends. Look, if there's any properties that are out there in Botswana that need investing, I might be your guy.
Yeah. And I won't leave you without asking you this general question of why are you so passionate about property? Why do you believe that property as an investment class is superior to some other classes?
Property for two reasons. One, property meets you where you are in life. Doesn't matter where. Contrary to what people think, property meets you where you are in life. Whether you've got the money, whether you don't have the money, you can still go into property. And that's the lie that we've been sold, that you need the money in property to make money.
You don't need money. You just need a good deal.
You need a good deal, but with that, coupled with knowing it's information, knowing a good deal, and back to that good deal, knowing a few people that can do it. The young boy who won Investor of the Year beginner category was a prime example of that. Didn't have money. He's in varsity. No, he's in varsity.
But he's already building a portfolio.
Yeah, he's in varsity. He's already building a portfolio. I know a few of them that are already doing that. And all they did, the different strategy, they flipped a few properties, managed to get enough properties to get into, buying one for themselves. And from there on, they just, duplicating the system.
Yeah, you flip and then you go to brr.
Yes, flip. Flip. Exactly. And that's exactly what they're doing. And that's exactly where it starts. So that's the first thing, it meets you where you are. And then the second thing of why property was important for me, it's a legacy for my kids. So I don't know if my kids are going to want to take over my business, which I don't think they will anyway. And but property, it's always going to be there, and it's for them to choose what they want. And it's a great way to build a legacy for them. So property is a legacy project, and that is where I see my...
Well, explain to somebody who may not understand. Why is property a legacy project? Can you break it down?
It's a legacy project. Like I said, I think it's mainly tied to what I do in my everyday life. What I have currently my kids cannot inherit. You know, the titles that I may have, my kids cannot inherit. In the next 8 years when I'm Dr. Mokoena, my kids cannot inherit my title, but they can inherit the properties, and it's passive income. So they can do whatever they want to do with their lives, knowing that this is still an income stream that they
That's
have
available
as an option.
for them.
Exactly. And for generations to come. And that is the main reason why I say that about property.
Provided you set it up properly.
No, of course. But that is where I'm there. I would have set it up for them. And of course, and it's very important to set it up properly, and because it can easily go wrong.
Yeah, get the right legal input and put things in place.
Because it can easily go wrong.
Yeah. Now, let's look at the future for the Mokoena brand and for these companies that you've formed. What does our crystal ball say if we're looking a decade or two down the line?
So I'll start with me, because I think that is what the driving force has been.
Yeah.
To the last 12 months, where the mindset shift has been, has drastically gone up. So and again, I'm putting this on national. Now it's on international. It's no longer on national.
International TV.
Now it's on an international scale now.
Yeah.
I said I've got a very audacious 8-year plan for myself. So the 8-year plan. So in 8 years I turn 50. Right. So when I turn 50 on the 30th of May, 2032. When I turn 50, I'll be celebrating a few things. One, obviously, is the 50-year-old, the Golden Jubilee. The second one is I'll be celebrating moving out of executive to becoming a chairman of the group, but in the actual sense of a chairman, not dabbling in between, making sure that I've built up systems and processes with these businesses that allows me to sit on a board. So I'll be celebrating setting up a board and sitting as a chair of that board for the companies. And the third one is celebrating my doctorate. So either I would have got it or they would have approved my my thesis. And those are the three goals that inform this.
Wow.
What the group looks like. And from a revenue point of view, I'm truly trying to build a 100 million rand plus business entity. You know, encompassing all the businesses that you've got, and say that we've built an asset that is worth. I thought
you'll say 1 billion, man.
That's why you come in. That is where you come in. Remember, it's and you are right in saying that, because with the right mentors, you're already challenging me.
Yeah.
Why not 1 billion?
Yeah, should think billions.
But you understand, because I'm saying that is why you come in, and that is why we're fortunate enough to share this space.
Well, I'm challenging, and I'm challenging you because I believe you can do it. And if you are as disciplined, as consistent as you say you are, and I believe you are, there's no reason why you can't hit the big B in a matter of 5 to 10 years. Are
you serious?
I would say 10 years. Years.
That's it.
But first, you have to give yourself permission by believing it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then once you believe it, then the rest is it's a matter of the DNC, like you were saying.
Wow, okay,
but even if you can't reach the big B, you can reach half of it.
Yeah.
So there's nothing wrong.
So maybe I need to, you see, but that also speaks to what you're saying in terms of the mind. Depends where you are.
Yeah.
So, but that's what fascinates me. See, my mind at the moment is saying 100 million. So that's a mindset of 100 million or 500 million of 1 billion is different.
You just need to extend it.
Yeah.
A bit further. All right. Now this is the part where. Okay, so just so I understand, you'll have this multi-million, probably 500 million portfolio. What else? How does it look like? What's in it?
I think so. From a property perspective, it'll be a lot of developments, a few developments, and then a lot of student accommodation, because I'm starting to
venture into
that area now.
Well, the last seminar we attended together at Senton.
Yes.
That's where we're told is the direction where things are going.
And I think with student, and I was just saying let me just get back to student accommodation. And I think the biggest thing for me at that time, what it's going to look like, is that I would have created my own bank.
Wow.
That is also part of
a physical bank?
No, not a physical bank. In
terms of systems?
Yeah, in terms of systems. So what I'm currently working on now, in terms of how the structures of my business is set up, I've got an investment leg. So part of that investment leg is what borrows money internally to these companies. So if, for example, my other companies need a vehicle, I don't need to go to the bank. I go internally and say, Mokoena Africa Investments, Please borrow me the money to buy a vehicle or lease me the money, or lease me a vehicle to buy for this company, and we pay you, in turn pay you every month. So that I want to have a solid investment structure that has at least 50 to 100 million that's sitting there, that's open to investments. So as part of the whole deal, that is something I'm very passionate about. And I've kind of done it in a way, but on a very small scale. But I've started doing that on a very small scale, of saying that I've got a pure investment company that invests in, if for example in Botswana there's somebody that says, you know what, there's a deal, the numbers make sense.
Okay.
Would you be able to invest?
Wow.
Then we pull out from this company here, because that's all that it does. Just manages investments and assets.
Sounds exciting, man.
I am.
Sounds very exciting.
I am excited about it.
Yeah.
It's almost like, you know what? It's almost like when it does this, the day it does this.
Yeah.
Then
It's gonna be fantastic.
But I'm enjoying the process, to be honest with you. So we are in the process of getting it right.
Yeah. I want to give you an opportunity to hit me with a question, sir, as we get to wrap up our discussion.
So I was asking a few people, by the way, because you know I followed the podcast that you do ask this, and I was like, okay, let me see. So I've asked a few people what would be the question, and I think the question for me, it's still the same question that I asked in the beginning, and it ties up with the question is, are you a billionaire, or is your portfolio worth $1 billion?
Oh, okay. That's a bit of a silly question.
But the question behind it is that what type of mindset do I need to have?
Yeah. No, I
to be able to
it's
be
funny
at that level?
you say that, because I have a mentor. I won't mention his name, but we meet like every 3 to 6 months. And the first thing he meets, he says, "Have you reached a B yet?" He asks me, and I say, "Oh no, wait, I'm getting there." And so it's really a matter of who's valuing the portfolio, and you have to be careful also. If you go on rooftops and shout to people that there's
You're
a B,
now,
there's this, you are now attracting hostility and
True.
and all sorts of things. The best way I can answer the question is to say,
I wouldn't want you to answer it. No, it's just a silly one that somebody is asking that.
Yeah.
No,
but
for
I'm
me,
going,
it's around
I'm
the
going to
mindset.
answer it this way. I'm going to say, look, I certainly have the mindset of a B.
Okay.
But I would not go so far as to say that I'm a B in a public forum.
Okay.
I think I've answered.
Very diplomatic.
Yeah,
very politically answered.
yeah.
But the mindset, I think my question is always around, I'm fascinated about what type of mindset do you need to have to operate at that level.
Well,
So
I
that's the
study these
question.
guys. I mean, I read their memoirs and their autobiographies, and I find that they're different. But they are similar is the thing I call relentlessness. They are relentless in the way they pursue their objectives. It's not just mere discipline, consistent. It's a relentlessness. It's just that extra grit. Yeah. That's what I discovered, that although they are different in many ways in terms of their educational background, but in terms of the way they approach business, they're just relentless.
They are beasts in them, man.
Yeah, they're beasts. They get into the beast mode and they stay there.
Yeah, because you mentioned something about beast mode in one of your podcasts.
Yeah,
I wanted to find out. Sorry, and I'm asking this
Yeah.
third question. What does beast mode look like? What is beast mode? Because
The way I look at it, I mean, there's a basketball player who has died, Kobe Bryant.
Yeah.
He used to call it member mentality. If I can give the example of him, when other players come, they find him practicing, and then when they are exhausted 3-4 hours later, they leave him there still practicing.
Oh yes, it's that thing that he
So
explained.
he's just differentiated himself from the rest in what he does, in terms of how obsessed he is with what he does. So you need a certain element of obsession. That's what beast mode does. Beast mode is when you, as a lawyer, you're confronted with an urgent application to save your client from a calamity, maybe at 6 o'clock. That event you're trying to save your client from occurs at 8 o'clock in the morning. And then you decide, look, I'm not sleeping. And you don't feel sleepy the whole night you're working. The objective drives you.
Oh.
The objective drives you. Forget about sleep when you need to. That's beast mode.
Oh, okay. So you've gone into that. Oh,
I,
so you certainly
I,
went
I can
into
switch
that
it on if I have to,
Oh,
if I
okay.
need to.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. Okay,
And thanks
now,
for allowing me to ask more than one.
yeah, no, that's it. Now is your chance to leave the viewer, say, if you look at that camera,
Yeah.
with one motivational piece, just a word of encouragement there.
I think it won't be. I think it's more not a word of encouragement. I think for me, it's a reality of life. So what inspires me over the last, I think, maybe 12 months, and what has become real, is that, you know what, life is fickle and life is so short. And we don't get a second chance. And I say this, we don't get a second chance at life. Number one. Number two, it's a one-sided contract. So in this one life that they've given you, you better ride it till the wheels fall off, because you only get one opportunity at it. And even at that, you don't know when it's going to end. So take your chances, take your opportunities, live your best life, because you only have one of it, and you don't know when the finishing line is going to be for you and me. So whether it's today or tomorrow, live it the best way you can. And that's what I honestly live by now.
Yeah. Mokoena, give them all your contacts.
So
On and off social media, everywhere.
So I think on all social media platforms, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, it's Mabuye Mokoena. So it's nice about having a unique name. Not a lot of Mabuye. So it's Mabuye Mokoena on LinkedIn, Mabuye Mokoena at Facebook, and on Instagram as well. So my phone, yeah.
Isn't there a contact phone for the office?
For the office, it's 087 265 1281. That's 087 265 1281. Yeah, and
Thank you.
Thank
Great
you very
interview.
much.
You're a great guest. You did a very good job.
Much.
All right.
I really appreciate
Thank
it.
you. Cheers.
Thank you very much.
All right.